Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hello, my name is Tosan. I am the Director of Operations here at BNet Learning. Learning is an organization that provides a consistent source of relevant knowledge and expertise to professionals. Prior to joining BNet Learning, I was a geologist in the oil and gas industry for over 10 years. Then I decided to transition into the exciting world of business analysis. Welcome to Finishing Strong. This is a year-end event we've put together with the objective to end the preceding year on a strong note and provide momentum as we begin a new year. Just before I introduce the co-hosts, there's going to be a prize draw for those of you who turned up early, so stay tuned for that. I'm excited to introduce the co-host for today's event, Jonas.
Thank you very much, Tosin. As Tosin mentioned, my name is Jonas Alamayo. I have the privilege of being the co-host for today's event. A little bit about me professionally. I've spent the last 8 years in various leadership positions in banking and insurance. Personally, I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I would consider myself a fintech business analysis and product development enthusiast. As I mentioned earlier, I'm very excited to be co-hosting today's event. You will be hearing from me later on, but for now, I'll pass it back over to Tosin to lead us into the next segment.
Thank you very much, Jonas. And now let's go into the exciting draw for those of you who turned up early. So let's go on. We can collectively agree that 2020 is a year that will definitely go down in the history books. There's so many ways this year can be and has been defined, but what is most important is the way you choose to define the year. We at BNet Learning tasked ourselves with coming up with 1 or 2 words to define this year. I'm going to read out a couple of those definitions for you, and as I read them, think about what resonates with you. Embryonic, defining experience, new opportunities, failing forward. These are just a few words. Now, before the end of the year, I want you to take some time out and actually find your own words, or 1 word or a couple of words to define 2020 for yourself. There's only 1 rule. It does have to be a positive word. So how will this event go? We will kick off with Yemi Faseun, who will be speaking to Finishing Strong. There will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end of his presentation, so go ahead and put in your questions in the chat box below. This will be followed by another draw. Yes, I'm sure a lot of you are looking forward to that. Then there will be a panel session where Rochelle and Toby will be discussing local presence and global reach. Another opportunity to ask questions. A showcase of Global Talents Accelerator will follow. And then another prize draw. Yes, we do love giving away prizes. At that draw, we'll be announcing the main winner, so you can still win that. Then John, the founder of BNet Learning, will come on and give a few comments and close the event. Sounds pretty exciting, I'm sure. So let's start. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Yemi Faseun. He comes to us with over 25 years of experience in human resources. He has developed a reputation for successfully leading strategic change management initiatives, organizational design, and mergers and acquisitions, just to name a few. Yemi has been recognized as a top global HR leader, a top personality on LinkedIn and Tech Times Africa, as well as a top 3 Africa HR influencer, amongst many other awards. Yemi's contribution to today's event is evidence of his commitment to develop the leaders of tomorrow. And he will be speaking to us about positioning for the future of work. Yemi, thank you so much for joining us. I will now turn it over to you. For our listeners, please post your questions for Yemi in the chat box. Thank you.
Good evening from my side. I'm not sure what time it is from anywhere people are listening to us, but it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. BNet Learning. I'm really happy to be here. So, I've got a bit of time to go through my conversations this evening. And what I really want to talk about in terms of finishing strong, I think the best way to look at that is to say, let's look at the year 2020 in perspective and see how we can prepare for a new year. Because the best way to really start next year is to make sure that we have the learnings that we can take from this year. This has been a very, very peculiar year for everybody, for every one of us. It's been a year where just before we go into the year, we're planning for 2020 and we're all in high spirits and all of that. And everybody was making plans in terms of what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and all of that. But 2020 came with its peculiarities. And I know some people have said to me that this year has been a decade. And what they really mean by that is within the context of what has really happened between January and today. It's been a decade in the real sense of it. So when we get into 2021, we're going to say Happy New Decade, because it's been 10 years of serious happenings around the world. Interestingly, this time, nothing around what happened was isolated in any part of the world. The entire universe witnessed the changes literally at the same time. I mean, at some point for about 4 to 5 weeks, the entire world was on lockdown. But if you take 2 or 3 steps backwards, you will realize that 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year, we're already talking about the future of work. We were talking about the new skills. We were talking about the new technologies. We were talking about new consumer behavior. And from HR perspective, we're also talking about new employee behavior. What we did not know was that COVID was going to be such a leveler that it was going to happen to the entire world literally at the same time. So some good learning, some good takeaways between March and now for us. And the best way, like I said, to end this year is to put it in perspective. Let's finish strong by understanding what learnings we can take into 2021. Because some have won, Zoom has won, I mean, if you ask me. Some have lost, some are playing a draw in this game of 2020, but that's not the end of it. The second half or another half is about to start next year. So what do we need to do to get ready for next year? And the best way for me to finish strong is to take with us into 2021 the lessons, the huge lessons we have learned this year. So I'm going to contextualize my conversation this evening for my side, morning for some people, contextualizing that within some certain conversations. The first thing I would love to say is that this year has taught us as human beings to be very, very resilient. We went into phases of fear to anxiety about the virus to lockdown because we're not sure. Some people thought it was the end of the world. And then we gained more knowledge about the virus, and that knowledge gave us more opportunities to learn how we're going to survive side by side with the virus. So I'm not a prophet. I don't have any crystal ball to look into to say exactly how 2020 is going to be. I don't have 2021 rather, is going to be. However, there are certain principles that were tested, timeless principles and universal principles that were tested in 2020, and we need to take with us into 2021 and beyond. So my first charge to those who are listening to me will be to say 2021 will be a time for us to reinvent. It would be nice for us to start that journey of reinventing ourselves actually now, in readiness for a new calendar year. Time to reinvent is now. And I'm saying that we shouldn't take our old selves into a new world. We have witnessed a totally changed world, but the news is that the world is still changing. That change hasn't ended yet. It's still changing. So do not take your old self into a changed or changing world. That misalignment between you, old self, and the new world will be too expensive for anyone to afford. So we are within a game where we need to constantly reinvent ourselves. Continuous self-development has become a critical success factor in today's world. The best way for us to finish strong this year is to take that lesson of self-development and reinvention with us into 2021. Because change will always happen, we must constantly, therefore, work on a new self. What brought us to this point will not take us beyond. The skills that we had in 2019 were challenged largely in 2020, and the best way to mind the gap in terms of new skills, retooling ourselves, getting ready, is to reinvent for the new world. Get ready. Change will always happen. The chill station will always move. But the good news is that it doesn't move in a day. It moves daily. We need to constantly watch for so that we can evolve or morph with the new world, with the things, so that we can pivot into fitting ourselves into the new world. The cheese will gradually move. The solid places we saw as comfort zones in 2019 and perhaps maybe some part of 2020, those comfort zones have gone away. And the not so good news is that they might not come back. So what do we need to do? We need to move away from that, the comfort zones of our icebergs that has melted, and we need to create new environments for ourselves, not only to survive, but to thrive. Because the virus, the vaccines will come, but the virus isn't going away. So we've been told in more ways than one. However, we need to still thrive side by side the virus. We need to take risks because fortune will only favor the brave. So, message is reinvent yourself and get ready for 2021. 2021 is not going to be a repeat of 2020. It's not going to go back to the world prior to 2019. It's a totally changed world. So the question is, how are you as individuals, how are we prepared to take on new opportunities that have arisen out of the challenges of 2020? The only way to do that is to be in a space of constant reinventing ourselves so that we can meet up with the challenges of today. Secondly, I'll say that we have to be resilient. Like I said earlier on in my introductory line, if anything at all, the virus has shown us that as a human race, we can actually be resilient. We can. It hit us unannounced. We were shocked. We were afraid. We were surprised. We were in lockdown, but gradually we began to come out of our closets, just peep and see what's happening out there and see what we can do to survive. And then, so we've got to be in a place where we are resilient for the opportunities that will come. The challenges are not going to go away totally. It's not impossible that another form of, maybe not a virus, another form of challenge might happen to us as individuals in our small corners and not necessarily to the world at the same time, but we need to put on that resilient nature to be able to go through the next phase post-pandemic. The events of the past 1 year taught us resilience in the face of what we did not expect. Well, we move through those phases and we are at the point where we have to thrive. I said a couple of days ago that at times our mountains might not move. We just need to find the strength to climb those mountains. In our career, in our business, in any endeavor that we find ourselves, best way for us to finish strong in 2020 is to get ready to be resilient in 2021, because that future is the next couple of years will speak to success only for individuals who are resilient in nature. The struggles along the way are meant to shape us for our purpose. And those are not my words. Whatever we come through, whatever we have come through, as we go on into 2021, let's get ready to show resilience in the face of changes happening to us on a daily basis. If we faint in the days of adversity, then our strength is quite small. Next, to leave you with is responsibility. The individual who's responsible for my success in whatever I do is myself primarily. Of course, we can rely on, or we can network, we can collaborate, we can work with other people. We've talked about teamwork and all that. But the primary responsibility for this stream of thought that I'm sharing, the primary responsibility for our success lies with us. We need to take ownership of our own actions. We cannot afford the blame game anymore. Nobody can even blame anyone for what has happened or what is happening. It has happened. Let's move on. Take responsibility and move on. And because we fail this year, doesn't mean that we shouldn't try again. Doesn't mean that we are going to fail again. What we need to do is to take all the lessons learned from this year. For instance, some individuals were ready for the future work. They took advantage immediately. Some other individuals were not. Some organizations were ready for the future work and they took advantage. Some were not ready. So what have we learned as individuals so that we can take responsibility for the gaps that have existed between where we thought we could be and where we are right now, and quickly take responsibilities for the actions that we need to take? Like I said, the fact that we fail or we have failed this year is not an indication by any stretch of imagination that we're going to fail again. We got to try again and fail forward. Failing forward is the place of learning all the mistakes we've made in the past and maybe today, and make sure that we move forward. Okay, having shared those 3 R's with you, first R being to reinvent, second, be resilient, and the third, taking responsibility. Let me share some conversations with you. And these are conversations that I've added to my repertoire of conversations over the last couple of weeks with individuals. Now, what the best thing we can take with us as a way of finishing strong in 2020 into the next year is to have value creation at the back of our minds. Be a value creator. There is no other way to be relevant in today's world other than to add value to our environment. If we are not adding value, we're not adding anything at all. Finishing strong is about adding value. Finishing strong and starting all over again is about the value we add to our ecosystems. So let me give you an analogy in terms of value. I break it down. If you love football or the game of soccer, I make allusions to that from a value perspective, that you need to be in 3 different departments on the football pitch for you to be adding value to that game or to your team. You either are a defender, you are a midfielder, or you're an attacker. So 3 ways to play the game and be a value creator is to defend, to attack, or to be in the midfield. When you are in the attack, I'll say when you are in the attack, you are scoring goals or you are bringing in revenue. You are bringing in the money. You are bringing in the sales. You are bringing in the business. You are in the attacking force. That for you is value. If you are in the midfield, you are contributing to the operational efficiency of the team. You are the one who is distributing the resources to the right places and understanding exactly what needs to be done at every point in time. You are the anchor between the defenders and the attackers. So you've got to be operationally efficient to make sure that you hold the ball and distribute. And if you're a defender, what are you doing to plug the holes around cost maintenance, cost management, so that we don't leak the revenue that is being made by the guys? Because if we let in as many goals as the scorers or score on the other side, then I mean it doesn't change the game for us. So from a value creation perspective in our organization, we must situate ourselves within those three contexts. How am I adding value? How do I need to be a game changer? Number one, be a defender, plug the cost holes. Number two, be a midfielder, operationally efficient. Or number three, score goals, bring in the revenue, bring in the sales. That is the first conversation. The second is around individuals who think that what is the best way for me to be successful? Is it because I need to know people? Is it because I need to do certain things? No. And that is because people have tried several times and they have failed. And I'm saying that, no, we need to get ready for 2021 by not relenting in our efforts to try again. I have spoken with so many young people, and a lot have given up because of the events of 2021. Sincerely, a whole lot of them. And what my message is to them and to everyone is to say that don't give it up. Try one more push. You'll be surprised that the night is the darkest just before the birth of a new day or new dawn. So we got to give it one more push. In our career, in our business, in everything that we're doing, we need to give it one more push. And the third thing, from a conversation perspective, is to say that I'm just trying to get the right framework for it. Yeah, some of the things that you need to find, I told someone we need to find a pattern that works for us. The context and where we are in our life cycle is peculiar to us. We need to avoid that syndrome of looking at other people, getting ahead, and thinking we are failing. Your context is a bit peculiar to you. What you need to do, right, to finish strong this year and start strong next year is to locate your true north and stay the course during the crisis that we are coming out of now, or some still going through it, or post-crisis. Locate your true north as you go through your own process. Be a friend of process. Things will happen at times because we just see things happen and we don't know the stories behind the process. We've got to understand that life will take us through a process. We therefore need to listen and understand the peculiarities around our process and stay true to our true north. Two more things. One of the things we should seriously take with us into next year is networking and relationships. Networking and relationships. The world in 2020 has also shown that we cannot be really in isolation and expect to survive. People were in lockdown and in isolation, and some people actually came out of that process depressed. We are all connected. There is a common thread around individuals. Therefore, we need to take networking and relationships very, very seriously. Number one, from a relationship and networking perspective, I'm saying when you come into every interaction, leave value behind. Make sure that your audience is asking for more. Your audience of one or your audience of two. Leave them asking for more. Number two, show genuine interest in others. If you're looking to build solid quality relationships and networks, show genuine interest in others. Don't just hear what people say. Please listen to them and listen attentively. Remember that you are a brand. You are Me Incorporated. So be careful how your brand comes across every time you come across to people. If you're a good brand, you will be passed around. If you're a bad brand, nobody wants to touch you. Think about it within the context of the things that we consume. Good brands tell the stories right there on the shelf. But if one person has used a brand and it's not very good, that one person will tell 100 people. But if I use a brand and it's very great, I will tell at least one more person. So what are people going to say about you from a relationship perspective? Communication skills are great, very important. Everybody wants to have an association with great conversationalists. You cannot successfully build a strong network without making personal sacrifices. People will want to invade your spaces, leave your doors open. It is just the reality that we are in. You can't build great networks and expect to have a great network by being by yourself. Remember the principles of connectedness. We are all in one way or another connected. And the last thing I want to say on the issue of networking, because it's a great skill going forward post-pandemic, the last thing is treat others as you would want to be treated if tables were turned. Change management. Let me touch on change management quickly. If you've not read the book Who Moved My Cheese, the time to read that book is now. It will open up your perspective around change. You begin to see things from an end-to-end perspective. The things that play out around us from a change perspective, they tend to play out gradually. But if you're not paying attention to those things, rather than being a change agent, you are likely to be a victim of change. Right? And if we do not see the transitions going on at our cheese stations on a daily basis, the possibilities of becoming a change victim is very, 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 very high. So please note that change will happen. We can't blame anybody for the virus. Some people might want to play the blame game and blame China or blame Wuhan, one small part of the world. But hey, it's happened. What we need to do is take lessons from it, from a change management perspective, and always get ready for change. The pandemic is from a global perspective change. Today, the change that might be happening to you could be from your organization, could be in your role, could be in your department, but you need to gradually watch that change. Change happens daily and not in a day. So watch your cheese station, watch the iceberg. It melts gradually, the cheese moves gradually. For those in leadership positions, let me also say, I have some words for them in terms of how they can finish strong this year from leadership perspective. If you asked me last year about the most important leadership competency, I probably wouldn't mention empathy last year. But today, leading with empathy has become a major competency for leaders. So as a leader, what are the lessons you are taking with you from events of the last 9 months into the next year and beyond? Now, and I'm not using leadership from an organizational leadership perspective alone. I'm not talking about executive directors and managing directors. I'm talking about you individuals managing another person, or you're a supervisor, you're a team lead, you're a manager, you're a director. All is around leadership. We've talked this year a lot about masks, about sanitizers, about hand gloves, and bars of soap. And that's because we wanted to contain the virus called COVID-19. But there's another virus that is eating deep into organizations, the leadership virus. People are going back to work, going back from work to their different houses on a daily basis, and they are depressed, they are frustrated, they are unhappy because of the quality of leadership that they get in their organizations. Attrition is high in your organization as a leader or in your team, and you are wondering, why is attrition high? It's because people want different sets of leadership competencies in the new world. So the best you can do for yourself, if you're a leader listening now, is to quickly understand the new leadership competencies expected in the new world. And if there are gaps between where you are and where you want to be, please quickly plug those gaps, because the new world is expecting us to lead with different competencies. Okay. Leadership is culture. Culture is leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. I'm sure you've heard that before, according to John Maxwell. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So for those of us who are in leadership positions, by all means, please make sure that the right competencies for the new world are with you in your bag as you get ready to round off this year, finish strong, and start stronger in 2021. And finally, what type of animal are you? What type of animal am I in the animal kingdom called the place of work? Are you the donkey who is very strong, takes on more, agile, steady, hardworking, but bears little influence on its environment, especially from a workplace perspective? Are you the sheep and you are very gentle, you are easygoing, you are calm, you are meek? How far do you think you will survive in the animal kingdom called the place of work? Or are you the fox, cunning, sleek, sly, perception managers? You can survive a bit longer than the sheep, a bit longer than the donkey, but how far can you go? Or are you the owl in the workplace? And what I remember the most about the owl is its ability to turn 135 degrees in both directions. 135 degrees this way, 135 degrees the other way, almost a 360 degree, 270, almost 360. So it is totally aware of its environment. And the courage the owl has to survive within almost any habitat. So if you draw the graph of X and Y, the graphs of performance and influence, the question I'm leaving you with is, what are you? Are you high on performance, low on influence? Are you low on influence, high on performance? Or are you high on performance and high on influence in your organization? It is no longer your IQ that will take you further into 2021 and beyond. It is your IQ plus your emotional intelligence, plus your political quotient, plus your spiritual intelligence, and around all of that, the common denominator is how you communicate with people. So, what are you in the animal kingdom called the workplace? Are you the owl? Are you the sheep? Are you the donkey? Or are you the fox? I wish you all the best in 2021 and beyond. And I'll be happy to take your questions right now. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Yemi, for that insightful talk. So we do have a few questions that are coming in from the chat.
Okay.
Before I start with those questions, I just want to say that there's been a few that are specific to how to become a business analyst, which John, the founder of BNet Learning, will be happy to answer in the presentation. But I'm going to go to the questions that are more specific to what you have just spoken about. So the first one is from Sylvester. So Sylvester says, Mr. Yemi talked about reinventing oneself and continuing to self-develop as a critical factor for finishing strong. My question now is, what are the critical skills one needs to learn as an HR person so that he or she can stay relevant in this changing workplace?
Okay, thank you. If any profession has been impacted drastically in 2020, it's been human resources. Sincerely, we became mature within that profession in 2020. We didn't have work from home policy in so many organizations. All of a sudden, we all had to work from home at some point, right? We had been preaching flexible work hours to many organizations, and they were saying, no, you've got to be at work. We want to see you. But hey, the pandemic happened, and then we need to roll out policies that allow people to work from home. We need to roll out tools and technologies that allow people to work from home or work from anywhere. So what new competencies do you need to be successful within the field of HR? This is what I'll say to the person who asked the question. Virtually around the entire HR value chain, new things have happened. And this is what I mean. The way we reward has changed. The way we do hiring, resourcing, or recruitment has changed. I remember that in February or January, I made a post on LinkedIn, and I was pleading with my colleagues in human resources to say that given the traffic situation in Lagos, can we please let people do interviews using technology or leveraging on technology? I did not see the pandemic at that time. There was no crystal ball. This was just me thinking futuristically about the different things that we can change. But today, it has become the new normal. You do not need to hop on the bus or in your car and get to go and sit down in front of people to do interviews anymore. That has changed. What new things are you learning, or have you learned, or do you need to learn from resourcing? Resourcing is no longer it's not an acquisition of talent. You must constantly have conversations with talent. Talent is now anywhere. Work is now anywhere. Performance management is not totally different. As of today, at an event, somebody was still asking me, how do we manage latecomers? And my response is, why are you managing people with time? Why are you not managing them by results? Performance management has changed. So what's that going to impact? It's going to impact our policies. It's going to impact our SOPs. It's going to impact our regulation. And it's going to impact our compliance. All of that needs to change. If you come into the current situation, if you've come to the current situation with old policies of 2019, my friend, let me just tell you, into 2020, 2021, it will no longer work. People are now working 2 jobs. How are you going to deal with it? The alternative workforce, people contracting, they are gradually becoming the mainstream in the organization. Side gigs is becoming normal. In my own generation, right, you couldn't do private practice. We called it PP. But this current generation, they bring their total self to work. Where are you in terms of employee assistance programs? Mental wellness has become a huge issue in today's world. Total employee well-being has become critical success factors. Where are you as an HR individual in the entire value chain of human resources? If you're still thinking about the old ways of doing things, you cannot succeed as an HR person. So the new competencies permeate the entire value chain of HR. Pick up new skills, pick up new conversations, do research, understand what the world is requesting from us as HR practitioners.
That's a wonderful answer. It sounds like a lot of it is on the individual itself, in terms of the responsibility to do the research, to have the conversations, to see not only what's happened previously and what's happening in front of them, but to the next conversation, or sorry, the question I should say, is coming from an individual is asking, I believe adding value starts first with understanding the process an organization employs in achieving their objectives. This can be daunting for individuals who are not part of the organization, as some organizations can be a closed source. How do we identify values to be added to an organization while not yet being part of that organization, considering the drastic change that's occurred due to the pandemic?
Okay, so do not wait to be a part of a particular ecosystem before you become a value creator. Any environment where you find yourself, create value. Let me say that I have changed jobs about 11 times. At times I'm proud of it, at times I'm not. But can I tell you that the last 9 jobs have been through referrals. So what I'm saying, therefore, is do not wait to be a part of a potential ecosystem before you start giving out value. Where you are, think value. Because people around you who are the recipients of the value that you create, when there are opportunities for you, they will refer you. So I might not see what you are doing within your own corner, but can I tell you that within my own network, in the last 1 week, two individuals have come across to me. One needed a group CFO, another needed a HR director. And they said to me, Yemi, please, can you give us referrals? I can only refer people outside of my environment. I don't see them, but because I know that wherever they are, they've been value creators. I can therefore refer them for roles. So do not wait to be part of an environment, because you say, before you say you will give value, whatever you're doing right now, wherever you are, let value be the driving force behind your interactions.
Wonderful. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time here. So I'm going to ask you one more question before we go on to our next segment.
Okay.
So you mentioned the question you posed was, what sort of animal do you want to be in the workplace or in your life in general? Which I think is a great question to consider, and something that I don't think we often think about. Now you mentioned, I heard you mention the donkey, the fox. Now, when it comes to you, what sort of animal do you think you are? What sort of animal do you want to be, and why?
Okay, so if the experience of the last almost 3 decades is anything to go by, and the events that have happened to me in the course of my work or career, I would say that I want to be all the animals, given the circumstances. The circumstance will determine exactly what I need to be, because a blend of all of that is what I consider as IQ plus EQ plus PQ plus SQ, if you know what I mean. I need to know when to be a fox. I need to know when to be a sheep, when to be a donkey, and when to be an owl. A combination of all of that, given the circumstances I find myself in, will do me a lot of good. But if I am a sheep throughout a 5-year stay in an organization or 10-year, or a donkey throughout, or an owl throughout, it just wouldn't work. Circumstances must determine exactly the kind of responses we give to our environment. So I am everything depending on where and how I find myself. Jonas.